All right, so I'm going to introduce our next special guest speaker. This is Jim Francis. Everybody say hi, Jim. Hi. I've known Jim for quite some time now. When you were working through a couple of different companies you work in, this back end and then there's front end. Jim has been both a back end and front end guy, but he's been mostly lately back end guy behind the scenes. How many people have heard of Tony Robbins? Yeah, he's been working with Oak Company. How many people have heard of Charles Givens? Remember him? How many people heard of Russ Whitney? All those companies, Optionetics, all those different type of companies, all these back-end stuff. This is the mastermind guys behind, the dude behind the dude, the guy behind the guy. And now Jim and I have been communicating back and forth about doing some business opportunities. And Jim called me up a few months ago and said, I'm working for Peter Lowe now. We're doing their back-end real estate stuff. Do you want to help? Do you want to be a speaker in that? And I go, what do you mean? You mean the guy on the stage? I go, yeah. I go, you know I'm not a pitch man. Yeah. He goes, I can make you a pitch, man.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I go, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I've been working with that, and Jim was, was kind enough to get me in that, and that's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. We've been working together, and just the amazing amount of insight that Jim's going to share with you, being in this business for over 20 years now, of back end between the big seminars, little seminars, conventions, even infomercials, and the whole system of how it works. Would it be good to have the insider guy who knows all that stuff? How many people think that would be good information? Well, it's so good that Jim said there's only one condition that I'm going to speak. You can't record it. So this is special stuff. So take out a pen and write it down and don't tell anybody, because we're not recording it. So you can only get what he says right now. So pay careful attention. And stand up on your feet first and give a big round of applause to Jim Francis.
Thank you. Stay up. Glad you're there. Something I normally do. So while you're standing up, stay up. My name is Jim Francis. My pleasure to be here. But before we get started, how many people are familiar with the concept of the left brain and the right brain? What's the left brain responsible for? Left brain. Right side of the body, it's analytical, it's the thinking part, isn't it? What's the right brain responsible for? More creative, more intuitive. It's the left side of the body, it's more feeling oriented. Do you think it's important when you're learning something new to know whether you're more left brain oriented or more right brain oriented? What do you think? It is, because some of us learn best through the big picture, and some of us learn best through the little details. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the big pictures. I'm also going to talk about the little details. And by the end of the session, you'll have learned some great strategies. So it is important to know whether you're more left brain oriented or more right brain oriented. Stanford came up with a test to show you whether you're more left brain oriented or more right brain oriented. It's a real simple test. What I need to do is take your hands, put them out here. Great way to meet people. Say hello. The count of 3, what I want you to do is to bring your hands together and hold them there. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's do this again. Only this time when we do it again, what I want you to do is to hold your hands there no matter what I say. Okay? 1, 2, 3. See, Bill, I told you I'd get a standing ovation. You have to stand for front out. You have to stand in front out. If your left thumb is over your right thumb, if your left thumb is over your right thumb, you're more logical, and in fact, you're a thinker. I see some of you looking at the person next to you and go, man, this test is really messed up, right? Here's what Stanford also found out. If your right thumb is over your left thumb, if your right thumb is over your left thumb, that you're more feeling-oriented, and in fact, you're extremely sexy. One or two gentlemen out there making the switch, right? Now, Bill, when he takes this test, his thumbs are straight like that. You know what that means? He just thinks he's sexy. Have a seat. It's my pleasure to be here. When you think about speaker training and sales training from the stage or in a small group or a presentation, I really believe that there are a number of mechanics that you have to become a master of. And I've had the rare privilege in my life to work with what I call a number of mentors. In fact, I've spent over $81,000 on books and tapes and education to have the privilege to stand on stage. And I really do believe in the power of mentorship. How many people agree with me that mentorship or coaching can get you to success faster? Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And in my life, I've had some great mentors. People like Tony Robbins, Og Mandino, Ken Blanchard, Donald Moyne, Charles Givens, Robert Kiyosaki, before he wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, grew up listening, Ron LeGrand, the twins, all those people have been mentors in my life and coached me. And as I did that, I actually got pretty good at it myself. In fact, I wrote a book called Sales Code, and Sales Code is really about how to take some of the strategies and skills and tools and start to apply them from stage. And they're not strategies and tips and tools that people normally think about. There's kind of some unusual ones there. How many people would like to have a copy of that, by the way? Copy of the sales code book. I really believe if you take action, you should get rewarded. So, someone who takes action gets rewarded. Right? Now, do you think that if opportunity knocked once, it might knock a second time? Right? If it knocked once and it knocked twice, you think there might be a third opportunity for you to take action. What do you think? Yeah. Absolutely. So, I don't have a book, but I do have a set of audio cassettes that talk about 4 personality styles, sales training strategies. Some of you guys at the back are going, why did I pick a seat up front? Right? And literally, as I started to master some of those skills, I did it for myself first. Because I am a speaker, I'm a presenter, I do still continue to sell from stage. As I started to do that, I also got into the seminar business, worked for a number of those large companies that you mentioned. I've started literally several seminar companies that have been in the multi-million-dollar realm. Some of those are over $200 million a year nowadays. Canada, the UK, the US, all over the country. So I've got that kind of varied background. What I'd like to do today is to kind of share with you 12 strategies that can make you a better speaker, a better presenter, and more importantly, probably allow you to sell a lot from stage. How many people would like to learn that today? Okay, I'll tell you this. If you don't put up your hand, I'm not going to teach. So how many people would like to learn that today? Okay, good, great, thanks. Appreciate that. As I'm going through this session, I would like to give you a physical demonstration of how to sell, as well as a theoretical demonstration of how to sell. Is that okay? Because I think people learn best through seeing it, applying it, and using it. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll start to do that as we go through the presentation. Just some notes. People who attend a workshop of yours are 3 times more likely to buy from you. 3 to 5 times more likely. That's a great opportunity for people. Unfortunately, for a lot of presenters, they get mixed up on the process of I'm a teacher versus I'm a salesperson. And the traditional mistake for most people when they're presenting from stage or in a workshop is they teach, and then what do? Try to sell their newsletter, try to sell their advanced product. And there is a distinction there that you've got to make, and that is, as you're presenting, can you indirectly sell?
Yes.
Yes, you can. There are tools and steps you can take to indirectly sell, not directly sell. So I'm going to share some of those strategies, because people are 3 times more likely to buy from you. And 2/3 of your income should come from your back-end sales. I had the pleasure of working with Jay Abraham and Ken Blanchard. And both of those individuals say that whatever your revenue stream is from a front-end presentation, from a front-end acquisition of a customer, you should have 2 to 3 times more revenue on the back end. And the back end is really where you can make a tremendous amount of money. So we want to spend some time in terms of learning those tools and tips and ideas, right? The major mistake for most individuals is in business is they don't spend that time once they've acquired the customer to max out that revenue. So we want to try to max out that database, because databases are the most costly to get. Once we have them, then what we want to do is to start to use that database, start to use it effectively. In our business, we kind of do that in the seminar business based on dollars per head. So I want to kind of give you some rough ballparks as to what you should be looking at, and then compare it to what you're doing and seeing if oops, sorry. Give you some rough ballparks as to what you're doing so that you kind of get a ballpark of what you should be at. In a 60-minute, 90-minute presentation, typically in this kind of industry, you should earn between $100 and $200 a head. If you're not doing that kind of number, then you need to start working at your presentation and improving your presentation. In terms of the back-end side of the business, that means if you're doing like a 3-day workshop or a 2-day workshop or something like that, there are kind of ballparks as to how you should achieve or what you should achieve. In a 1-day presentation, you literally should do about $500 a head. In a 2-day presentation, you should do about $1,000 a head. And in a 3-day presentation, you should do about $1,500 a head or even more. And there are some groups out there that literally in a 3-day workshop are doing $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a head in a 3-day workshop. Now for some people, they go, wait a second, I've been to this kind of seminars, they're all pitch. It doesn't have to be that way. In fact, there are a whole series of indirect tools you can use so that it doesn't come across as a major pitch, right? So we want to make sure we use some of those things. You don't have to be high pressure. It can be very subtle. And I call those the 11 commandments, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. Let me just give you an idea. What I want to do is I want to take 2 educational models that I use, 2 5- and 10-minute training pieces that I use to influence people in terms of the sales process. They're educational nature. So when people are sitting in the audience, they're going to say, well, these are strategies. These are tools that we learn in terms of wealth building. But I'll tell you right now that I've set them up really to do what? To sell. And they're set up, and you can do the exact same thing in your business. It'll look like you're training somebody, but you're really selling your product or your service. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me kind of give you a demonstration. I'm going to give you two demonstrations. I teach something called the wealth wheel, and I don't care whether I'm doing this in the stock market, or I'm doing this in real estate, or I'm doing this for a small business presentation. I use this wealth wheel as the foundation to lay some ideas, some strategies that I know later on will help me in terms of my sales process. I also teach something called the 11 Commandments of M2. I had the rare privilege in my lifetime to spend time with 50-plus millionaires. As I spent that time with the 50-plus millionaires, I learned some strategies and techniques and characteristics that they have that other people do not have. Might it be useful for you to learn some of those strategies and techniques? Yeah, it might be. Now, as I teach that, I pretty much can guarantee that you'll see the reference to selling. And as I do these two sections, what I'm going to encourage you is not only to listen to the strategies and information, but watch what I'm doing on stage. Watch where I'm standing, watch what gestures I'm using, listen to the words that I'm saying, because you'll hear some very specific phrases that come out of me. Then what I'd like to do is to take those two sections and to kind of break them down so to show you what I was doing. Would that be a good lesson for you?
Yeah.
Okay, great, cool. So let's pretend for a second that I am going to sell real estate. I'm going to sell real estate. I'm going to sell some advanced training when it comes to real estate. I'm going to try to sell a mentorship program. I'm going to try to sell a coaching program. I'm maybe try to sell a distressed advanced training program. I maybe talk about commercial real estate or something like that. And I'm just going to go into the realm of being that instructor for a second, and then I'll kind of break and come out and we'll break it up. So let's start. Hi, my name's Jim Francis. I had the rare privilege in my time to spend time with 50-plus millionaires. In fact, I had individuals like Robert Kiyosaki. Everybody know who Robert is?
Yep.
Robert Kiyosaki is one of the leading wealth experts. Would you agree with me?
Yep.
Isn't he one of the leading wealth experts? Yeah, he is, isn't he? So when I was spending time with Robert, I promoted him before he wrote the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, and as I was talking to him about his strategies, his main theme is passive income, isn't it? That's one way to get to wealth, but there actually are about 6 areas that you can get to wealth. So here's what I want you to do. Find a page someplace, a blank page, a completely blank page. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to draw a big circle on the page. And then once you've drawn that big circle on the page, what I want you to do is to cut it up into 6 separate sections. Can you do that for me now? All right. When you're thinking about this as the wealth wheel, there are very specific strategies to becoming wealthy. In fact, I know that there are 6 major strategies with respect to that. So let's take a look at that first quadrant. The first quadrant we want to take a look at is really, when we're focusing on wealth, we want to focus on cash flow. So what I want you to do is in that quadrant, write cash flow. Cash flow. Now, I really believe in the 40-40-20 plan to building wealth, and cash flow is an important element of that. And really, when we're talking about over the next 3 days, wealth building in terms of real estate, there are 3 strategies or 4 strategies you must adopt in cash flow to be successful. In fact, if you don't have these strategies, you're going to be a major failure. Okay, so you've got to have these strategies. Would you guys like to know what the strategies are? Okay, great. Here's the other. The first strategy, one of the first strategies, is rentals. We've got to focus on rental income, which means we've got to be pretty good at understanding, multifamilies and rentals and rental community. The next is we have to focus on lease option strategies. Lease option strategies. The next area that we want to focus on is discount mortgages. We want to learn the business of discount mortgages. If we learn the business of discount mortgages, we'll be very good at building cash flow long term. How many people want to have cash flow long term? Okay, great. The next area we want to focus in terms of cash flow strategy is flips. Okay, so we want to have the ability to flip property. Now, there's a challenge with doing flips because if you do a flip, and I've done my share of flips, meaning you buy that ugly property, that ugly greenhouse, and you fix it up, put some sweat equity into it. Maybe you bought it for $50,000, you put 20 into it, and you sell it on for $100. What's the challenge with that? I've got to do it again. So what are you really doing? Yeah, you're working for a living. Is working for a living the way to get to success? No, it is. In fact, one of the things I want to get to is passive income. So it can be good cash flow. However, you have to realize that it's a job, right? And a job is something we probably don't want. We want to have passive income. We want to have regular cash flow. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, great. So that's one of the areas we're going to focus on. I'd suggest probably about 40% of your portfolio needs to be in that area. The next major area that we have to focus on is asset appreciation, growth. Okay, in terms of asset appreciation, the strategies we have to focus on for our long-term wealth are really the buy and hold strategy. So we want to focus on the buy and hold strategy. And we want to focus on forced appreciation. Does everybody understand what forced appreciation is? Forced appreciation is that ugly property, right? It's that buying a property, fixing up with some sweat equity, and then selling it on, and we are forcing the value or forcing the appreciation of the property to go up. Did you know that there are two other types of forced appreciation? There are. Would you like to learn them? Well, I really can't go over all of them at the moment, but I want you to write these down beside forced appreciation. The other two types of forced appreciation are marketing appreciation related to real estate, and phased appreciation relating to real estate. And you want to make sure you learn about those things, right? We'll talk about them a little bit later. The third major area that we want to focus on is big hits. Now, the challenge for most real estate investors is they hear somebody that made $100,000 very quickly, and they go out and invest all of their money to do that $100,000 deal, and what happens to them? They fail, right? They lose their money. Okay, and that's not something you want to do, right? It's okay to get big hits, but should you really go out and try to get them immediately? I think the answer is no. It kind of reminds me of people who like to fish for a living or they go hunting for the whale. So you think of that little dinghy and they take that harpoon and they go out to fight with the whale. What can happen to them? They can get killed. They get eaten, right? They could get, totally killed, right? So you might not want to do that strategy. In fact, a better strategy is to wait for the whale to come into you. Does that make sense to everybody? Yep. Okay, so one of the things we don't want to do is focus on big hits immediately, but let them come to us. When we talk about big hits, what we're talking about specifically is you want to spend time and learn strategies on foreclosure strategies. We want to spend time on REOs and wholesale buying, volume buying. So those are the areas long-term that will make us wealthy. Those are the areas that we want to invest our time and our effort long-term to build wealth. Because a big hit can be $50, $100, $200,000. Does that make sense to you? Yep. Okay, good. The next major area we need to focus on is asset appreciation. Or leverage, sorry. Leverage is a tool for success. So I found in my lifetime, I used to go out there and do all the things like look for property and go to the MLS listings and visit with realtors and have sourcing agents and those kinds of things. But I was spending a lot of time searching for property myself. Is that the best use of my time? No, it's not. The better uses of my time would be able to get somebody to do that for me, wouldn't it? Like getting a sourcing agent, right? When you're learning something new, you can learn through books and tapes and education, but quite often aren't you better to learn from somebody who's done it in the past? Somebody who's done it in the past and has been successful? If you learn from that person, do you get to success faster? What do you think? You do. So isn't it good to have a good coach or a good mentor? Yeah, it really is. So we need to really think about, who's going to be our coach? Who's going to be our mentor? Who's going to be that individual that's going to do it for you? Does that make sense to you? Okay, yeah. So we want to focus on, making our money make money. We want to make sure that we're making our time make money, but we also want to make sure that we have a good coach, a good mentor on our team. In fact, I would suggest to you that as I'm talking, you want to start creating your action plan. And as you're creating your action plan, you might go to the back of your book and you might write an action item is to find a good mentor, right? Next major area is asset appreciation or asset planning. We want to make sure that we spend time on asset planning because 1/3, one-half your wealth is going to come from asset planning, right? So we want to make sure we're focusing on land trusts, corporations, and structures, right? If you're not spending that money, you do want to spend that money. What happens for most investors is they go out there, buy the first property, the second property, and then they start thinking about asset protection, using land trusts or losing structures. Is that the right way to do it? No, it isn't it? What's the right way to do it? Spend the money up front to get that done so you don't have the liability and the issues. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? The next major area is education, and I really believe in the real estate business that you have to spend 6 months to a year to increase your education. I mean, the reason I'm standing here is because I spent $81,000 on books, tapes, and education. How many people agree that education, when you learn, you earn? Right? And if you learn more, you earn more. Right? So we want to make sure we focus on that. In my life, I had the rare privilege of spending time with 11 or 50 plus millionaires that came up with 11 characteristics of what made them successful. Would you like to learn that? Yeah. Okay, great. So here they are. You know, the individuals I spent time with, Tony Robbins, Art Bendino, Charles Gibbons, all those different folks, they're all kind of have their books out there, and you can certainly learn from that. Best if you learn from them directly rather than separate. They came up with 11, I came up with 11 major characteristics of these folks. So let me share with you what those 11 characteristics are. The first is they have big dreams. When you think about it, you know, what's the dream for most Americans nowadays? To have a job, isn't it? That's what I call the 40-40-40 plan. Right? What does the 40-40-40 plan really mean? You work 40 years, 40 hours a week, only to take a 40% pay cut. That's the wrong plan, guys. Man, a job does not make you a multimillionaire, generally speaking. Would you agree with me? You've got to have a better plan than that. So if that's your plan right now, that's a great way to get some cash flow, but it's not the way to become what I call M2 status, which is a multimillionaire and earn over $250,000 a year and literally have $2 million in cash. How many people want that kind of goal, by the way? Okay, if you want that kind of goal, is the job the right way to do it? No, it's not. We've got to start focusing on changing our viewpoint. And in fact, as part of interviewing the millionaires, I came up with some other strategies that made them successful. So for one of them was breaking outside their comfort zone. Doing something new, doing something different, changing the way they looked at things. So we want to make sure we change the way we look at things. Now normally I do an exercise here, just a side note. Okay. The next area is that we take a look at working what? Smarter, not harder. Right? And I really believe that you can earn $250,000 a year, be at that M2 status, by working only 16 hours a week. How many people want to work 16 hours a week and make $2 million? Okay, good. Right. The fourth area, or fourth characteristic, strategy I notice of these guys, is they don't let their emotions rule their decision making. They don't let their emotions rule their decision making. What does that really mean? Well, sometimes when you're making an important financial decision, can you get wrapped up too much in the emotion? Sometimes when you're making an important financial decision, can you get too wrapped up in the numbers? What do you think? Analyzing it to death. How many people have had an opportunity, they analyzed it to death and they lost the opportunity? Does that happen? It does. So you've got to have the right balance of the left brain and the right brain, right? Really what happens for a lot of people is they get afraid, right? They get afraid. It kind of reminds me of, one of my mentors, a guy named Tony Robbins. Everybody know who he is? Okay. Anybody done a fire walk with Tony Robbins? If you've done a fire walk with Tony Robbins and you're standing there in front of those hot burning coals and you don't have your shoes on, your pants are rolled up, do you think the fact that the heat, which is 2,000 degrees, it's hot burning on your legs, you think there might be an element of fear there? What do you think? Yeah, there is, and fear really holds people back from success. Do you know there's a trick to fire walking? There is. I mean, he spends 8 hours teaching you this, but it's really a 10-second trick. You want the 10-second trick? How many people would like to have the 10-second trick? How many people really don't care? That's okay. Stay with me. Right? Here's the 10-second trick. Here's a 10-second trick, guys. See, the trick to fire walking is real easy, and it's the trick to everything in life, by the way. See, if I can get you motivated to take that first step, you're very motivated to take the rest. You guys laugh. Isn't that like life, though? See, if I can get you motivated to take that first step in real estate investing, to take that first step forward, and you're on the path, do you think that you'll do the rest? Yeah, it's one of the reasons, for example, people who go to advanced training or go to mentorship are so successful, because they spend that extra money, now they're on the path. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, it does. It makes enormous sense. What does it make? It makes dollars, right? It makes dollars, right? So we want to take the fear out of emotions. We want to take the fear out of emotions. If it makes sense, if there's a return on investment, should we just simply take action? Yeah, we should. In fact, one of the major strategies of all of the 11 that I learned from these 50-plus millionaires, one of the major strategies was something I called the quick and the dead. The quick and the dead. So it's a real simple strategy, and the best way I can do this is to kind of demonstrate it for you. So let me give you a demonstration of the quick and the dead. Who here will give me $10 for this 20? I'm not going to come and give it to you. You've got to take some action. Very good. Very good. All right? What kind of return on investment was that?
100%.
That was 100% return on investment. Now, if you get 100% return on investment, should you take action? What do you think?
Yes.
Absolutely you should take action, shouldn't you? Should you worry about it? I mean, if it makes financial sense, should you just take action? Yeah, you shouldn't be thinking about, well, I'm too far away, or, you know, I don't have the money, or you should just take action. If you're getting a 100% return, you should take action, shouldn't you? Right? If opportunity knocked once, do you think it might knock a second time? And some of you might even want to get prepared for this. Who'll give me 5 for this 10? Who'll give me a 5? I'm not going to come to you. You're going to. Very good. All right. He grabbed it. Man, if you get 100% return on investment, should you just grab it? Should you just go for it? Yeah, you should, shouldn't you? I mean, doesn't that make sense? See, the problem with most Americans, most Canadians, most people in the UK is they're too busy evaluating, they're too busy thinking about it, and they miss the opportunity. Man, if you're going to get that opportunity, you should take action. Now, if I did opportunity knocked once, and it knocked twice, it knocks it 3 times, who'll give me $1 for this 5? Very good. I also believe, guys, listen, when you take action, what else should you get?
Reward.
You should get a reward, shouldn't you? Yep. So if you take action, shouldn't you get a bonus? Okay, so if you took action, you should get a bonus. So here's 3 hours of audio cassettes on negotiating strategies and also a great motivational quote set. Now, if opportunity knocked once, it knocked twice, and it knocked the 3rd time, who wants $1? Who wants $1? That's good. That's yours. Great. By the way, if you took action, guys, when you take action, should you get the bonus? So shouldn't you get a bonus? Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you 365 motivational quote sayings and also 3 hours of negotiation strategies and selling techniques. Question for you: How much return on investment did he get? There was 100% return, 100% returns, 500% return. How did he get? Infinite return. Well, you know what an infinite return is? That's no money down invested. That's where you don't put up any cash and you get that kind of cash flow back. Even better if you get paid to buy. Can you get paid to buy? Can you? Yeah, absolutely. How many people here, besides me, have done a cash back? Okay, so you can get paid to buy. So is it okay to buy?
Yes.
It is, isn't it? Right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. We get out of character.
Did you guys catch a lot of what was happening there? Okay, so what kinds of things was I doing as I was presenting? Anchoring. So anchoring is a technique or a strategy. And I would actually kind of like to share with you what an anchor is, and then kind of show you how I use the stage to anchor. Did you see me do stuff like this? And stuff like this? That is an anchor on the stage. When I said somebody successful, what did I do? I gestured to myself. Okay? So that's called an anchoring technique. Very subliminal, very indirect, but people do get the message. Okay, what are the things that you see in here? Okay, so when I was talking about 100% return on investment, and you shouldn't think about it, you should take action. When I said action, what did I do? I pointed to the sales team, right? In fact, normally I would have my bonuses, the stuff that I'm going to give as bonuses for there, where? To get them to do what? Be conditioned to do what? Go to the back. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so there are a whole series of subliminal things that you can use to influence people to take action. Now, some of you are going to say, well, Jim, you know what? That's very manipulative. And the answer to that is, yes, it is. Okay? Now, if you have an issue with that, it usually falls that you're winning at their expense, right? Man, I know my product's a good product. I know that 80% of people that attend workshops, go to advanced training are successful because they've taken that first step. So do I believe in my product? Not only do I believe in my product, I know it works, and it works successfully for them because 80% are successful. So is that a win-win relationship? It is, right? So I did that kind of demonstration to kind of give you some of the tool sets. Now, would you guys like to learn some of the specific tool sets? Okay, so let's go over a couple of strategies in the next hour or so that can help you improve your game in terms of performance, right? Take mega notes. By the way, there is a section in there that's called sales code. Sales code is kind of towards the back. Turn to that section. There's a lot of handouts that I normally would have at the back, but they're in that manual as well. One of the greatest mistakes that people make as a presenter and as a teacher, as an instructor at workshops and sessions like that is they have a belief system that is, first of all, that, I'm here to teach and that's all I'm here to do. If you're in business, is your job just to teach? No, it's to deliver a good quality product, but all businesses must be successful, and therefore it is your obligation as an owner to do what? To upsell, to market, to do more sales. So one of the first things I want to suggest to you is, if you are teaching in workshops, don't just teach and then at the last 10 minutes present your product and service. It doesn't work. If you do that, you will not be as successful as if as you're doing your presentation, you influence them to buy. So the first step is make sure that what I call always be closing. The ABCs are always be closing. You want to make sure you're always be closing. It is not just your job to teach, it's your job to sell. And in fact, if you do have that mental philosophy, I'd suggest to you that needs to change a little bit. Because it's your obligation as a professional business person to sell more of your products and services. So we always want to be closing. We want to do the ABCs, always be closing. Now, how do we do that in terms of our presentation? Most of us will be doing PowerPoint or overheads. We want to use those PowerPoints or overheads to influence people over a period of time. By the end of the 90 minutes, by Sunday of the 3-day workshop, we want to influence those people. So here's a couple of things you might want to do. First of all, in my introduction, did I talk about the fact that I worked for a Fortune 500 company for 8.5 years, that I own a substantial real estate portfolio, that I have multiple businesses in the UK, Canada, and the US? Did I mention any of those things? No. What did I talk about? I spent $81,000 on what?
Education.
Books, tapes, and education, and I had a great who? Mentor. Now, is that an indirect way of saying to them it's okay to spend $80,000 on books, tapes, and education, and that you need to have a great mentor? Is that different than the typical introduction where most people in the introduction are talking about themselves? They're going to find out about me in the 2 hours. They're going to find out about me in the 1 day or the 2 day or the 3 day anyway. I do want to create some social proof, which is the part about the 50-plus millionaires. But the thing I want to do is right from the get-go, I want to introduce my products and services. See, most people are very afraid to do that. And I suggest to you within the first 2 or 3 minutes, they should know that you have other products and services that are available. It doesn't have to be a big pitch, but you want to make sure that it's up front so that there are no surprises. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, so we want to make sure that we're not concentrating on ourselves, we're concentrating on changing our script, our presentation to influence people or say it's okay to buy other stuff, right? Yep. One of the things you want to do is you want to take each PowerPoint presentation, and I have a philosophy that goes something like 45 seconds of content, 15 seconds of moving them closer to action. 45 seconds of content, which means good solid strategy, good solid information, good techniques, good value for what they've paid, and then 15 seconds of action items. Now, literally, when I'm building a presentation for the first time, I go through my PowerPoint presentation and do the content. So I get all the content down. Then what I do is I print it out on those 3 slides to a page. If you're using PowerPoint, everybody know that program? Yep. 3 slides to a page. It's the output. And then what I start to do is, okay, on this slide, I'm doing 45 seconds of content. What's my 15 seconds of influence? What's my 15 seconds of action that's going to bring them closer to the sale? Now, I guarantee that if you start to think that way, that'll start to come into your language, to come into your presentation, and it'll start to move them towards it. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Okay, so you want to start planning your hooks. And most people don't plan their sales hooks. What they do is totally focus on sales on the content side, and then when they get to their sales presentation, they do 15 minutes of sales presentation. Okay, if you do that, that's the wrong strategy. And when I say that, I'm talking, I've trained over 200 plus professional speakers in the seminar business. Some of you might have seen some of those folks, right? If you've seen those folks, this is one of the major messages I do with them. Just get that 15 seconds every minute. And it doesn't have to be direct. It can be something very subtle. And then what I do is I start to say, okay, maybe I want to take it a little step further. Geez, I want to plan my introduction, what my sales piece is, but then start thinking about some of the other elements. Where do I want to do my stage anchors? Where do I want to create a joke? Where do I want to get a conditioning process where they go to the back? Where do I get to think about bonuses? Okay, a little more formal. In fact, I actually created an Excel spreadsheet that has this kind of format. Would you guys like to have it? How many people would like to have that? I hadn't planned on giving it to you, but how many people would literally like to have that? Okay, it's actually in your book. Right? Okay. By the way, that is something I'm going to teach you in a second. It is building reciprocation where you're going, geez, I really want that, right? So we want to make sure that we have that strategy. Okay? I really believe in the 12 commandments of control, so let me walk through them pretty fast with you. Number one is the environment. Your environment in terms of the seminar, and I know Bill has talked about this, is pretty important to give an influence of what the group is like. But it just doesn't happen with respect to how the room is set up and those kinds of things. It happens how you treat people and how you greet them and how you move them. Your sales team, your coordinators, your staff should be on the same wavelength as you with respect to that. And in fact, there are a couple of different elements that we want to make sure we include as part of it. We want to make sure we build rapport pretty quickly. We want to set up the environment in the workshop so there are rewards and there's almost punishments. Does that make sense to you? Okay, one of the greatest challenges is when you're doing a group of 100 or 200 or things like that, can you have negative people in that group? What do you think? And if those people, if you don't kind of control them, can they influence the whole group? Can they influence in the hallways? Can they influence them in whatever? So you've got to kind of set the stage a little bit about what's acceptable behavior and what's unacceptable behavior. Okay? So you need to control that. When you greet and meet people at the beginning, quite often with our instructors or our coordinators, we'll say, okay, you want to go directly up to the front. We tell them where to go because we want to direct them from the beginning, not later on. So if people go to start to sit at the back, we don't allow that to happen. Quite often you'll see those last 3 or 4 tables duct taped off. You got to go up to the front. That's where you want to be. So you want to control the audience from the get-go with different kinds of strategies. You want to intercept some of the conversations in the hallway. You'll find after I do my session, the first 2 hours or so, I actually go stand in the hallway and see who's talking to who. Right? Are there influences in an audience?
Yes.
Interesting thing about that is an influencer usually has 3 or 4 people listening to them in a hallway. So if you go out there and look, do you know who the influencer is in an audience? Can I talk directly to that person? Yes, I can. Right? So we want to start to figure out who they are, what they're about, and start to influence that way. So we need to control the environment. So that's the first piece. What's acceptable, what's not, what's rewards, and what's punishment. Now, how do you do that? Well, a good piece for me is, quite often what I say is, there's 2 pieces to what I do in terms of workshops. First of all, I'm a teacher. And as a teacher, I'm going to give you great strategies, great techniques to get you onto the path to success. But I'm also a coach. And let me ask you this question. Is a coach always nice to their players? No, they're not. Why would a coach not be nice to their players? Because they see more in the player than the player sees in themselves, don't they? And quite often, does a player need a little kick? Yeah, they do. So is it okay for me, as a coach, when I see you wandering off the path, on the wrong path, for me to gently and nudge you back? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, is it okay as a coach if I see somebody who's like a red light thinker, to kind of deal with that individual?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Sure.
How many people here, for the benefit of us, so that we can get to that M2 status, so that we can be that multimillionaire, for me to kind of put people back on the path, how many people would allow me to do that as a coach? Let me just see a show of hands. What am I getting here? Agreement frame, right? So allow them to do what? be firm. So, by the way, when I do this, does that also tell me who the red apple is? Yeah, it does, because they don't put up their hand, right? Okay, so automatically I'm starting to gauge who the audience is, right? The next area that I want to focus on is building rapport and then leading. Building rapport is really about connecting with them. So we do want to make sure that we connect with them. I want to make sure that I'm like you. So, there's ways to do that. There's called matching and mirroring, where we want to mirror values. We want to do visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and kind of advanced kind of topics. But we want to make sure that we match them. So, quite often I tell them about the fact that I was sitting in a workshop just like you're sitting there. I spent $4,000 to be in a 4-day training program. And at the end of the four days, I kind of wondered whether it worked or not. Does that match who they are and what they're about? It does. So I talk about the fact I have 3 kids. I talk about the fact I'm married. I've been married for 20 years. To build the rapport level with them. Once I have rapport with them, can I start to lead them a little bit? Yes, I can. In fact, I'm pretty directive about leading. Question for you. Why did I have you stand up right from the beginning? Actually, Bill did, but I would have done that anyway. Why would I get you to stand up right from the beginning? To command. To say, you have to follow me as the leader in the presentation. Does that make sense? Okay, so you want to make sure that you're starting to build rapport. If you take a look at some things that I was doing in terms of building rapport, first of all, did I set the stage up to be the left brain and the right brain? Where's the left brain? It's a logic piece. Where is it?
On your right.
It's here. Where's the right brain? Here. Am I starting to separate the stage? Okay. Why did I do that joke? Is it because I wanted to have a laugh? No, it's purely to condition them to take my direction. Do this. I said, turn a page and draw a circle. Okay. Do I really need to do that? It's in the workbook. Do I need to do that? No. Why am I doing that? I'm starting to lead you to follow my direction. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? You'll see some instructors that'll post their schedule up on a PowerPoint presentation, right? 9 to 5 we're going to cover this, 9 to 5 we're going to cover this, 9 to 5 we're going to cover this. I don't do that. What I do is let me just talk about the schedule, and I go over my overhead and say, okay, what I want you to do is just pull out a piece of paper there and grab your pen. Pull out a piece of paper there and grab a pen. Yeah, that's right. Okay, here's what the schedule is going to be like. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm directing them. Once I've built the rapport very quickly, I start to direct them. Right? Permission frame. I gave you the teach versus coach piece, so you ask permission to be a little firm with them so you can move them on the right path, right? So we want to make sure we're asking, if I could show you how to make $1 million, will you allow me to do this? It's kind of the language pattern I'm going to use, right? If you could get this, would you allow me to do that? Right? So we want to use this kind of language. We want agreement frames as we're doing a presentation. What they're called are tag questions. A great guy that does this is Tommy Hopkins. You know how many people have listened to Tommy? He's a pretty good guy, isn't he? Okay. Okay. How many people have listened to Tommy? He's a pretty good guy, isn't he? Bill's a really good guy, isn't he? What is that? I'm stealing his credibility, his anchor, his whatever. Can you do that? Sure you can, right? Tag questions. Tag questions basically mean when you're talking to people, you use questions to get them to say yes. Have I been using tag questions? Did that make sense to you? Yes. Are we on the right path? Yes. Okay, good, good. So you want to ask those times, are you with me? Am I going in the right direction? Okay. In fact, just based on what I've talked about a little bit right now, some of you are going, man, that's a lot of stuff to put in a PowerPoint presentation. How many people, does that happen for anybody? Okay, so how do you do this? Well, for me, when I was thinking about tag questions, one of the simple ways for me to do is in the bottom right-hand corner of my PowerPoint presentation, I would have the tag question. What I'd say sense, right direction, right? And I can tell you, after been doing this for almost 2 decades, no one has ever come to me and said, what's that word in the bottom right-hand section mean? They just don't ask, right? But it's a reminder for you to do what? Get agreement frames. In fact, one of the trainers out there in a $200 million seminar company, when they're teaching people about the 90-minute presentation, the 120-minute presentation, which in the business is called the sweep, right, or the preview, one of the trainers there mandates that a new instructor must get 100 agreement frames
in 90 minutes. Is that like 1 a minute? It is. Now when I say agreement frames, does this make sense to me? Yes. Am I moving on the right path? How many people here would like to learn about this? When I get you to put your hand up, is that an agreement frame? It is. At the same time, I might condition you to say yes. I am. Isn't that the old insurance sale? Get them to say yes 100 times and then ask for the order, right? Is your name Jim Francis? Yes. Do you live at 14? Yes. Are you looking for insurance? Yes. Is it the $1 million policy or the $5 million policy? Why? How many people are interested in this? So we want to write these tag questions down. Yes, 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 yes. And then as we do that, we condition people to follow as opposed to not. So we want to make sure we're doing that, right? You can do the right thing now, right? Change beliefs. When people come into a workshop, whether it's a 2-hour workshop, 1-hour workshop, 3-hour workshop, do they have certain beliefs that you have to deal with? Okay, are the people in that workshop that are afraid of spending money? Yeah, there are. So you need to deal with that someplace in your presentation. You do. Are there people there that are apathetic? Yes. Are there people there that have a security mechanism that says if I don't spend the money, if I don't buy something, that's safe? What do you think? Yes. Yeah, because in the past they bought something and what happened? They lost their money, right? So do we have to change those belief systems over time? What do you think? Yeah, we do. So someplace in your presentation, you have to write down what are the top 5, 6 belief systems that you have to deal with, and make sure that you deal with them in your presentation by changing their belief systems, by changing it. You'll have people in there that say, I'm too old, right? You'll have people in there that say that I'm too young. Is that a belief system that we've got to get them over? So if I know that, do I make sure that one of my testimonials of somebody who is 78 years old that made $100,000 and was buying real estate for the first time in the last 6 months? Do I have somebody literally from Denver here, a young kid, 19 years old, that made a little more than $10,000 on his first deal with no money out of pocket? I do. Why do I do that? Because there's going to be that belief system about being too young, being too old, right? There's going to be that piece about being apathetic or whatever that might be. So we need to make sure we script our presentation to deal with those kinds of things. So if we're apathetic, we want to make sure that turns into action, right? If there's doubt, we want to make sure that it's firm. I doubt this works. I've got to demonstrate them through testimonials, through social proof that it does work. They're going to come in with their plan. What is their plan? Their plan is to work in a company for 40 years, take a 40% pay cut. Do we have to get them away from their plan and onto our plan? Yeah, we do. So we need to attack their plan on a regular basis. You need to attack retirement. You need to attack the job. You need to attack those pieces and say, hey, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Right? Isn't there a better plan out there? I mean, is the plan to be a JOB just over broke? Is that the plan? No, it's not. What's the plan? Maybe to be self-employed, maybe to own multiple real estate, be passive income. So I will want to attack their plan on a regular basis so they get your plan. Some of them will say that, geez, I really need to do that. Is need enough? No, in fact, we're going to use some language that's going to change that need to a must. They must have that. They must need that. It's not the need, it's going to be a must. You're going to say that you're going to have one issue with a certain individual. And that certain individual, I'll call them a driver. Does everybody know what a driver is? I'll go over the 4 personality styles in a second. But a driver thinks he can do it himself. The challenge with the driver is when they come to a workshop like this, they listen to what you have to say in their first 2 hours or their first day, and then what do they think they're going to do? They're going to take that information and go do it themselves, right? Okay, so you need to attack that a driver in terms of how they're going to be successful or not. Because if you don't, by the way, who are most of the buyers?
Drivers.
Drivers tend to be buyers, don't they?
That's right.
Because they're type A personalities, aren't they?
That's me.
So if we don't leave, if we don't, yeah, and you're going, hey Jim, get to the bottom line, right? Right? So you got to understand people. So let me just give you a quick snapshot of understanding people. Basically, there's 4 types of people in the world. The Chinese did this thousands and thousands of years ago. Dr. Merrill made this kind of famous. Larry Wilson actually took it into a book tape kind of thing, Wilson Learning Systems. But basically, there's 4 types of people. If you understand the 4 types of people, social styles, you can sell to them. How many people would like to learn this, by the way? How many people would like to have like a cassette that would refresh their memory on this, by the way? Great. Get the bonus. Absolutely. She get the bonus. Right. Okay. Okay, so here are the 4 types of styles. Okay, did you see what I just did there? I flashed something. I flashed it for less than 5 seconds, and then what did I do? Okay, what does that create in individuals? Interest and curiosity. Okay? So, show a slide and don't ever talk about it. Right? Internal. Basically what Merrill proved, when you're thinking about individuals, there are 2 characteristics, and if you know these 2 characteristics, you know what style they are. If you know what style they are, you know what motivates them. If you know what motivates them, can you influence them? The answer to that is yes. So, first of all, on the straight line, what you want to put at the top is internal. Internal. At the bottom, you want to put external. If it's internal, I want you to write these words. Okay? I want you to write these words. Besides internal, I want you to put controlled. Besides internal, put the word controlled. Beside external, what I want you to put is I want you to put the word emotional. Emotional. Right? On that cross line, horizontal cross line, on the left side, I want you to put the word slow. On the right side, I want you to put the word fast. Fast. Okay, besides slow, I want you to put methods, speed, language, all those kinds of things. Besides the right side on fast, I want you to put decision making, results orientation, those kinds of things. All right, so let's talk about this first quadrant up here in the top right-hand corner. This person is really what I call a driver, right? They're a driver. Now, a driver is very fast-paced, very quick to get to decision-making, and does not show a lot of emotion. What is it that really motivates a driver?
Results.
Results. Why results?
So want the answer now.
They want the answer now. Yeah, get to it. Yeah.
Because they're delegating the little stuff to everybody else, and they want the organization or whatever to go on and get results.
So a driver kind of thinks of life as what? A game, and what must they do?
Win.
When the number one thing for a driver is they must win in everything they do. So in negotiations, they must win. In them buying your product, they must win. And you have to show them how to win in the deal, right? There's 2 parts to winning. There's winning and losing. In fact, it's been said that 68% of the population is motivated negatively. They'll do much more not to lose something than they will to do something. You know, Myers-Briggs kind of proved that a little bit. So, winning and losing. So what that means is we have to point out what they're going to lose if they don't do this. Man, if you don't do it, where's my driver? Man, look at it. If you don't do Bill's program, there's going to be 12 people ahead of you. There's going to be 12 people doing much more than what you're doing right now. Now, as a driver, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I got to get back there.
I got to get back there because I don't want them to be ahead of me.
And
Right?
I want them all to know me, and I want to
Yeah, and in fact, you know what? Of the 12, I want to be the top dog.
I'm top dog.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the driver, you got to point out what they're going to lose by not doing it. That makes sense to everybody. Okay, it makes sense to the drivers for sure. And the next individual is an analytical. An analytical is really slow-paced. They're very methodical. They're very systems-driven. Very systems-driven. Their number one value in life is to be what? Right. They must be right, and they can't be wrong. Okay, so if you're negotiating with them, and this is one of my favorite techniques when it comes to real estate investing. You know, I do a 17-page inspection report off a software program I have, and it points out all the problems with your house. And if I know they're an analytical, and I'm saying, hey, listen, you're asking $110 for the house, this report clearly shows that there's at least $10,000 worth of repairs and things like that. And what does the driver do? They don't question whether it's 10,000. What are they doing? They're looking at the report going, well, that number's not really right. It should be 99. Okay, so I take off the 99, and then I move to the next one. So the driver's about the system, about the numbers. They have to be right. So you've got to show them how to be right in the deal or how to be right in the process. And if you're trying to negotiate with them, you show them what they're doing wrong in terms of the negotiation strategy. Does that make sense? Yeah? The next individual is an amiable. An amiable is very slow-paced. They show a lot of emotion. They're very concerned about the relationship, the team, those kinds of things. What is it for the amiable? What are they really looking out of the deal, looking out of the product, or those kinds of things? The relationship, to feel good, right?
So with the amiable, do you want to talk about all the benefits of your product? No, what you want to talk about is being part of the team, part of the group. We together will accomplish this. If I'm trying to sell mentorship, what am I talking about? This individual is going to take you by the hand and walk you down the path to success. In fact, you know, with most of our mentors and our mentorees, they become lifelong friends. If somebody's an amiable, is that something that's appealing to them? Right? Absolutely. What about an expressive? The next individual is an expressive. Very fast-paced, very fast-paced. They want to get to the emotion very quickly. You know, what is it for them in terms of what they want to get out of the deal? Their number one value. I have a bonus for somebody who figures it out.
Socializing.
Instant gratification. Recognition.
You got to figure it out. I need the answer. No, that's more the amiable. Expressive, fast-paced,
To be the star.
high energy. They want what life has got to be what? Ah, there you go. Very good. Now you're going to sell those, right? He's good too. They're the same. So fun. They don't like apathy. Okay, so they want to have fun in the process. You know, years ago I worked with the Charles Gibbons organization, and I actually kind of helped them bring their Tax Master Tax Defense program to fruition, which was 50-plus tax professionals in Atlanta who were ex-IRS agents. Does that sound like kind of a dry product?
Yes.
It is. So if you're talking to an expressive and you're trying to say to them, well, what we can do is save you $1,000 to $5,000 on your taxes, you know, to make sure that they're safe, secure, and you're not getting ripped off in terms of the IRS, that's a little difficult sale to somebody who's expressive, is it? What do you think?
Yes.
But can I take my tax product and make it so it's fun?
Yes.
Yeah, so what do you do? With that kind of individual, say, hey, listen, you know, you can save $1,000 to $5,000 in the next 30 days. Can you imagine having $1,000 or $2,000 extra? What would you do with that $1,000 or $2,000? Might you take that special, significant loved one to a beach like maybe Hawaii? And as you're sitting on that black beach in Hawaii and the sunset's going down and you're sipping a glass of champagne, do you know what's going to happen? Is that different than my tax product as my tax product? It is. So do we need to change our style in terms of who they are? There is. Do audiences have certain styles? Yeah, they do, depending on their business to business or business to consumer. Generally speaking, the quadrants are 25, 25, 25, and 25. Now here's the problem for most presenters. What style do they use to communicate it? Their own. If they only communicated their own style, who are they missing out on? 75%, right? So you've got to be good at changing your style to meet the needs of those other individuals. Now what happens if you don't know?
Hit them all.
Hit them all. So you do the shotgun approach. Say the reason you want to do this is because I know that you want to win, because you don't want to be behind somebody else. And literally you want to do this deal, it's going to be the right deal for you, not the wrong deal. And I know that you want to be with us for a long time. We'll be friends, family, and we'll love each other forever, right? Because you don't want to be there by yourself. And listen, what are you going to do with the money? You're going to go to that special place on the beach, spend it, you know, and have fun. Does that make sense to you? Okay? So literally you need to think about that. Now, here's one of the things I do. One of the things I do in terms of my presentation, my PowerPoint presentation, is that I actually put little notes to myself on certain sections. If I'm doing a numbers section, is that the best time to talk to an analytical person?
Yes.
It is. So while I'm talking to that analytical person, I'm going to have a message for the analytical person. So I'm going to communicate to them about our products and services and how that when we do our products and services, we make sure that you don't make mistakes. Man, with our software program, there's no way you're going to make a mistake. In fact, it just pops up the window, it has all the little detail, and when you do that, it gives you all the right numbers. You'll figure out what the ROI is. You'll figure out what the cap rate is, because you don't want to make a mistake on that. And am I talking to the analytical person? Okay. One caution with respect to seminars. When you're doing seminars, whether it's 1 day, 2 day, or 20 or 120 minutes, there is one individual who's a bit of a challenge. And who do you think that person is?
Driver.
The driver. Why is the driver a bit of a challenge?
It's a stinking long time.
Taking a long time to get to that point, right? And you know, if you're an amiable, you want that to happen. You want it to be, you know, a relationship, that find out who you are, and all that kind of stuff. So you got to deal with the drivers pretty fast, right? So normally in a workshop or something like, hey, listen, I know there's really 4 types of people in here. You know, there's the people that that like things to go very slowly, and then there's people that want to go really fast, right? They want to get to the bottom line. Now, for you people that are going really fast, want to get to the result right away, we're going to get there. But you need to give me some breathing room. You need to just back off for a minute because I'm going to show you a technique in a few minutes that'll make you $50,000. You know, and if you kind of blow me off, you're going to miss out on that technique. Okay? So what did I just tell the driver? But I also gave him what he wanted, didn't I? Which is what? If you stay with me, you're going to win. Okay, so you got to do that. I realize your drivers are going to be a bit of a challenge in terms of that. How many people would like to have some scripts, some language to talk to drivers, to talk to expressives, to sell you? How many people would like to have that? Okay. No, seriously, how many people would like to have that? Okay. If you go to the back right now, you can pick it up. All right? Okay, stop. It's in your book. It's in your book. Just wanted to see if I could do it. Now, handouts. Normally, I do not give a workbook with everything in the book. I have handouts at the back. Why do I want to have handouts at the back?
Get them going.
To get them used to doing what? See, here's a traditional problem with the sales process. What happens is the speaker does his presentation, and then he gets into sales mode. And then he says, and you need to go to the back. Well, if they haven't been going to the back regularly, does it become a barrier there? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So you want to get them conditioned to going to the back on a regular basis. That makes sense to you? So it's normal. And in fact, quite often I'll have my salespeople hand out the pieces and talk to them. Not just sitting on the table, but handing out so they talk to them, they interact with them, they build rapport with the sales and the coordinators at the back. Right? So we do want to change that. Changing beliefs, we kind of talked about that. We've got to change those belief systems, you know, what they are, whether it's I'm too young, I'm too smart, you know. The driver's going to think he's too smart, he doesn't need to listen to you, he doesn't need a coach, he can do it himself. So you want to make sure you're working on these kind of areas. These are the top 5 you want to attack. Top 5 you want to attack. Apathy, no action. You must have a piece in your presentation to get them to take action. To realize that sitting there doing nothing is costing them millions and millions and millions of dollars. So there must be a piece in your presentation. You have to attack their current plan to success. Because they're happy with their current plan. So you've got to make sure that you show them a way that that plan is costing them money. That might be the 40-40 plan or the job piece. Most, I wouldn't say most, but I'd say a good half of your audience thinks they can do it themselves. You know, you give them some strategies, some techniques, you know, and they'll go out there and do it themselves. So you want to do that. You do want to give them value. You do want to give them strategies, but you also want to give them a caution. And the caution is, I've had some people who have really lost their shirt because they didn't do asset protection first. Okay? You've got to do asset protection first before you go buy that first property. You know, because it could cost you $50,000 or $100,000. Okay? So you want to attack their plan. You want to attack their network. Their network is going to support them or not. If they go home on a Saturday night, or if they're at a 20-minute or a 120-minute presentation, and they go home to talk to their wife's significant other or friend, and they say, listen, I just spent $10,000 on a 2-day workshop, what do you think that friend might say? Are you nuts? Right? Can that friend talk them out of that buying decision? You get buyer's remorse. So don't we want to talk about who their friends are, who that significant other is? Man, if that person's never made $1 million, should you be listening to them? What do you think? My dad is a PhD, you know, a very smart, intelligent guy, right? Bought his home, retired, all those kinds of things, but he's never been at millionaire status. Should I listen to him about financial advice? He's done okay, but if I'm trying to get to that level, should I be listening to him? No. So does that discount his voice tonight when I go home to talk to my dad? It does quite a bit, right? So we want to make sure that we're attacking who that other supporting network is. Does that make sense to you? I'll even take that a step further. We want to make sure that we're putting words in their mind about what should happen that night, right? Do we want to attack negative attitudes? Yeah, we do. So we want to make sure we're positive. So we quite often have the red light and the green light. We have the bad apple, the good apple. And we make those analogies and want to make sure people are on the path in terms of good attitude. Conditioned response. There are things you can say to individuals as you're doing your presentation that condition them. So you might do things like, if you can't, you must. Anybody go Tony Robbins? One of his favorite sayings, if you can't do something, you must. Right? So I talk about a situation where I was going along Fort Lauderdale. I was in Fort Lauderdale, and I've been doing residential properties, houses, those kinds of things, condos.
and I walk by a 38-unit hotel complex. Now, I'm a seasoned professional investor, and even when I saw that 38-unit hotel, what thing fired off in my head? I can't do that. But I have a philosophy that says if I can't, what? I must go do it. Does that change your whole life? It does. And I actually cut that deal and then assigned it to somebody else. But the point I'm trying to make is if you do that I can't, I must, when Saturday night comes around and they're thinking about I can't afford this, what do they have to think of? I must. So repetitive language can influence people over time, right? If you have fear, one of my major messages over and over and over is when you have fear, you have to take a step. If you're afraid, you have to take a step. Okay? I demonstrate that with the Tony Robbins Firewalk story, but I reinforce that regularly in my presentation. So what's going to happen to them on Saturday night when they're thinking about buying? Is fear going to pop up? And what do I want them to associate when they hear that fear? What do I want them to associate to think? I got to take a step, right? That's the way people get successful. So you want to create these kinds of themes, repetitive languages, to influence people. Directives, tell them what to do. Directives means from the beginning, tell them to stand up. Directives mean, hey, grab your piece of paper and do this. You want to be directive and you want to have the authority and be in control. You also want to tell them how to respond. Hey, listen, when you go home tonight and you're thinking about buying this product or service, there's going to be two ways you can think about it. Here's the first way, here's the second way. Now, the first way, you're going to go back to your normal life and you're going to be your normal individual, go back to your job, and you'll never be successful. Because people come to these programs all the time. However, if you choose the other thought process, this is what happens. They start going on the path of success. They buy the first property, the second property, and they're successful. Have I mimicked what their thought process is?
Yes.
And I'm directing them as to what their thought process should be tonight, today. Can I do that in a 90-minute presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've got lots of friends who'll say something like, hey, listen, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to spend 90 minutes together. At the end of 90 minutes, a certain portion of you are just going to walk out. Now, if you do that, you're going to lose out. However, the people who said, come on with us, you're going to earn . Am I conditioning them to think the way I want them to think? Because really, there are lots of other things they could do. They might have objections. They might have whatever it might be. Repetitive language does work, so you want to use some repetitive language. I gave you some repetitive language in the book, but I'll give you a few more. Education is expensive, but ignorance is even more expensive. Action gets you a bonus. Everything I do, action gets you a bonus. Why am I going to do that? Do you think there's going to be a bonus with my product? Do I want them to get the bonus? I did, right? Scarcity. There's only a few of these. There's only a few spots left. There's only 12 of these, right? So you want to use scarcity. Millionaires do this. People who are successful, this is what they do, right? And if you're not doing it, then you're not going to get there, so you've got to do it. A simple technique would be say, hey, listen, how many people here are real estate investors? Okay, great. If you're a real estate investor, do you know the power of education?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the education that got you to where you're at, isn't it? Okay? That next level of revenue, of whatever it is, isn't that going to take more education? Okay? So I'm saying that education is very powerful. When you learn, you earn. When you learn more, you earn more. So you want to use those kinds. I wonder if you can. Some embedded language. You want to say some language, and I've used it a few times already, by the end of this session. Did anyone hear me say that? Is that an indirect command to buy? It is. Buy now. You're probably imagining. Is that an indirect command to buy? Okay? At a subconscious level, we recognize that word buy. Right? The way to success is very clear. By the way, okay, a very indirect command that you should be buying. So you want to use some language. And I don't know what you believe about hypnosis and those kinds of things. I think Donald, you mentioned that, didn't you? Right? Does it have an influence on people? Absolutely. It absolutely does, right? So you want to start to master some of that. One of the ones I use regularly is, hey guys, in the real estate game, you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. You make your money when you buy, not when you sell. Has anybody seen the gestures I've been doing as I say that? Every time I said buy now, by the way, what am I doing? Buy now, By the way, take action. I'm pointing at the back, right? You'll get it at a very subconscious level, no question. By now, there's some great stock guys out there that I had the privilege of working with, and some of those guys really have taken this to another level. And what they'll do is on their presentations, they'll say, you know, there's an entry point. How do people do the stock market? So you got entry points and exit points, right? So when you do an entry point, you know, this is where you buy, isn't it? Isn't this really where you buy? It is, isn't it? Okay, and when you buy, what happens? Then when you buy, you profit. How many people like to buy and profit? How many people here would like to buy and profit? Some of you are getting it, and some of you are going, oh, I don't know about you, Jim. So they're saying that every chart, they say, you buy and you profit. Buy, profit, buy, profit. If you hear buy, profit for 120 minutes, do you think you associate buying with profit? What do you think? How many people are seeing how this might influence some people? How many people are sitting there going, oh my God, I was a victim of those guys. And I probably traded. Right? So we want to use repetitive language. Good. Hey, is this really good stuff? How many people are getting some value out of the last 60 minutes? Is this good stuff? It's great stuff, man. Isn't it great stuff? Right? It's good stuff or great stuff? It's good. It's great stuff, right? So you want to take the good to great. And so I want to use those kinds of language patterns. If I can, I must. Right? Fear equals action. When I'm afraid, I take a step. Right? So you want to use these repetitive pieces. Does body language influence people? Sure. So there's a couple of things I use from stage that have an impact with people. So first of all, you want to become pretty good at body language. There's a great book out there called Subtext by Julian Fast. Right? So you want to pick that up. But there are things you can do in terms of body language to control an audience, a group. So for example, if I want questions, what do I do? Anybody have any questions? Am I telling you it's okay? I want questions. Hey, are there any questions? What did I tell you? There's no questions. Somebody's doing behavior I don't like, right? And I see it in the audience. What did I just tell them?
Bad boy.
Right? There's a point that I disagree with the individual. Did I tell them anything? So can body language have an influence? What do you think?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to be pretty good at body. And when you're trying to deliver something very direct, do you want powerful body language? Right? Everybody's attracted to Tony Robbins kind of gestures, right? So you want to start to learn some of those things. So that book is a very good book to kind of learn some of those things. Mind reading. Very good skill. It's an excellent skill. And it's really putting yourself into the position of that individual and then thinking through what they're thinking. When I say thinking through what they're thinking, I'm talking about what they're feeling, what emotions they're going through, and trying to mind read what that is. And when you mind read with them, they start to think that you're in their head. Does that make sense to you? Right? I mean, I know when I did my deal, first $4,000 I spent on a real estate training program, you know, I'm sitting in a chair just like that, right? And I'm feeling the back of the chair on my back, you know, and I'm wondering whether this guy is true or not. Am I mind reading him? I am. If I mind read him, do I build rapport? I do. As I build rapport, can I start to lead him a little bit? Yeah, so we can do mind reading. What you want to do is to mind read what they're thinking, but also mind read some of the conversations they might have with their spouse, their significant partners, those kinds of individuals at night if they're not there already or during the daytime. And there are certain things that they're going to ask, like, does it work? Do we need to deal with that? We do. We need to make sure it doesn't work. Why aren't you doing it? A very common thing for people is, geez, if this is such a great deal, whether that's real estate, stock market, or small business, or internet, or whatever that might be, why aren't you doing it? Why isn't that your full-time presentation? And you better have a good answer to that, right? It better be something about you're giving back to others because you've had the opportunity to be touched and you want to touch others, right? You know, I retired when I was in January '98 for the first time. I found that being your type of personality, type A personality, it wasn't what I wanted. Then I thought about what do I love to do? I love to talk to people about real estate. I love to talk to people about business. I love to talk to people about those kinds of things. It's the reason I'm here.
Yeah, I get paid well, but the reason I'm here is really to touch the lives of other people, because I was touched by this big giant guy named Tony Robbins, right? So you want to mimic them. You want a future page. You want to say, hey, this is how it happened, this is why it happened, this is what you need to, this is how you should respond to it. And one of the major things is the buying decision. You want to script what should be happening in their head in terms of buying decision. You want to script, when you're talking to that significant person tonight, and that might even be yourself, I want you to kind of weigh the pros and the cons. So let's talk about some of the pros. Let's talk about some of the cons. And let me suggest to you that if you listen to this person at the end of the night, what's going to happen? You're going to go back to work on Monday. But if you listen to this person at the end of the night, what's going to happen? Somebody catch that? Okay? What's going to happen is you're going to be multimillionaire status, $250,000 a year, and have a lifestyle where literally you can walk out of your bedroom and your shorts and make a ton of money. And people want that lifestyle, right? So you want to mimic that. Another way of doing it, there's also the one I use called the window. Okay, guys, would you guys like to learn a quick strategy for how to deal with some decision? How many people would? How many people are like, I'm done? Oh, nobody. That's strange. But some people should go, I'm all topped up. I don't need any more. Right? Okay, so here it is. This is one I use just before I do my closing. Just before I do my closing. Folks, I know in an audience like this that there's kind of three groups of people. So here's what I want you to do is I want you to look to the left. Look at the person on your left. You guys that are over there, look at the wall. It's okay. Just pretend it's a person. Look at that person. Just check him out. Check him out. Person on your left. Let me suggest to you that this individual is a window shopper. Okay? They probably came to a workshop like this 3 years ago. They probably have been to multiple workshops, and all they do is window shop. Right? They like the ability to look at things and see how it could be. But they're never going to get to success because, they don't want to spend money, they're too afraid, they don't want to take that step. Okay? What I want you to do is look at the person at your right. Look at this individual. Now let me tell you, this person is going to be successful, except for one thing. They are a know-it-all. They come to a workshop like this, and they think after learning a couple of strategies that they can become a multimillionaire. Right? And the challenge with that is, do they have enough information yet? No, you need to get more information. I'm pointing at Bill, by the way, in case you didn't get that. You need to get more information. Here's the problem then. And I know you drivers out there, you're thinking, I'm going to take these 3 or 4 strategies and I'm going to make $1 million. And guess what? You will. The only problem is it's going to take you 10 to 15 years to get there. Now you drivers, you want 10 to 15 years to get there? No. If you're going to get their success, what do you need? More education. You need a coach. You need a mentor. Somebody who's done it. Now let me talk to you about that person in the center. That person in the center is totally 100% committed to success. They want to be a multimillionaire in the next couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. They want an income stream of $250,000 or more. How many people are like that? They want to get to that level. No, seriously, how many people want to get, guys, how many people want to get to the level? If you don't put up your hand, man, if you can't put up your hand, well, this individual is looking for a path. This person realized the value of education. This person learns when you learn more, you earn more, right? So let me just talk about some of the programs we have to continue your education. Set a nice frame for things. I basically said, you're an idiot, you're smart, right? Okay? Society pressures. Is it okay for me to share this kind of stuff?
Oh, it's great.
How many people are enjoying it? Okay, good. How many people aren't? Yeah, I saw it. You're doing the whole he's manipulating me thing, right? You need to come see me because we can get over that, right? Together. You can't do it yourself, you need me too, right? Okay, so there are 2 other strategies. If you don't mind, I'll just wrap them up. I might take you maybe 10 minutes over lunch. Is that okay, Bill?
Cool.
I'll ask these guys. Is it okay for me to go like 12:10? All right, cool.
2030.
What's that?
2030.
20 or 30? If I could show you how to make $50,000 in the next 10 minutes, would that be okay?
That'll be okay.
Okay. Okay. Basically, there are society pressures that we subscribe to, we succumb to.
And if you know what they are, they can help you in terms of influence. So let me, there's a great book out there by Cialdini. I'll give it to you in a minute. So we want to learn some things about some of the strategies that are out there. One is reciprocation. I use reciprocation a lot. Commitment and consistency. I'll talk about that a little bit, how you get them to commit a little bit. And once they're committed, then they have to follow the path to success. Social proof. Liking as a speaker. I had a very dry sense of humor, and I wasn't very funny. So I actually went on this course in terms of humor to be better in terms of humor. I think I got a little bit better. We'll see, right? So we want to be liked as individuals. Authority. You want to make sure that you're commanding as authority. So I'll show you a technique there that we use regularly. And then scarcity. You want to make sure that they want to be part of the elite, part of the small group. So each of these has some strategies that you can adopt and use. So let me give them to you real quick. Reciprocation is, I'm going to give you something that you weren't expecting. Right? Here's a lot of things I do. Let's say that I plan on giving them a handout. It's good information, it's solid information, and they should have it. Maybe it's about the 40-40-40-20 plan in terms of investing in real estate or any kind of investment. They should have that information. Am I going to give that information to them in the book? No, where am I going to put that information?
In the back.
At the back, my instructors or my sales coordinators are going to hand them out to people so they build rapport as they're talking. Here it is. Nice to meet you. Here it is. Nice to meet you. Right? So I'm building people to go to the back. But I was going to give it to them anyway, but I don't do that. I say, hey, listen, I'm talking about the 40-40-20 plan. I've talked about that a little bit. How many people would like to have a 2-page article in the 40-40-40 plan? I hadn't planned on giving it. How many people would like to have that article? Okay? So listen, hey, Bill, do you think maybe we could get these printed to get to these people? Maybe you can get that done now, and at the break, you go to the break at the back and pick up that article. How many people would like to have that? Okay? Did I just create reciprocation with you? Did you think I'm going an extra mile for you specifically, and I was going to give that out anyway? What do you think? Okay, so you want to use reciprocation. I give out a lot of bonuses. I hand tapes out. I do a lot of that to get reciprocation back from individuals. Kind of reminds me of that person that's walking through the airport with the flower. They hand you the 50-cent flower, and then they say, that's our love gift to you, and what do they expect in return? $20. So anytime you can give more than expected, anytime you can give an additional benefit, make a big deal of it, even if it was something you're going to give them anyway. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so you want to make sure that you're adding some value. So reciprocation is very strong. Commitment. You've got to get them committed. A lot of people are window shoppers, and as window shoppers, we have to get them committed. What that really means is you've got to get them into the picture of that individual. How many people here are real estate investors and you want to influence other people to become real estate investors too? Okay, here's the problem. When they come see you, you're here, right? And they consider themselves to be a newbie, a nobody, and they don't know anything. As long as they consider themselves to be a newbie, a nobody, are they truly committed?
No.
No, they're window shopping. So one of the things I'll do in a workshop like this is to say, if we're talking about real estate, is I'll say, how many people here are real estate investors? You'll get a couple of people, and then the rest of them, what will do? No. Okay, so from now on, if you want to ask a question of me, here's what you're going to do. You're going to stand up, you're going to tell me your name, and you're going to say, I'm a real estate investor, and then ask your question. Now, the reason I'm doing that is to get you used to being a real estate investor, because as long as you see yourself as not being one, you're never going to be one. Does that make sense to you? It's kind of like that, you always hear the motivational gurus that say, hey, listen, if you want to become a millionaire, you don't say, I want to become a millionaire. What do you say? I am a millionaire. So you need to say, I am a real. Does that make sense for everybody? Can you play along with me over the next 3 days and just do that?
Yep.
How many people can play along with me over the next 3 days and do that? Okay, great. So in the morning, I'm a real estate investor, 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 right? Okay. Saturday. This is what real estate investors do. They invest in their education. Commitment, consistency, next step. Does that make sense to you? Did everybody get that? It's the difference between I am this individual, and as this individual I need to do this, as opposed to I'm still not that person. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Okay, so you've got to get them in the picture, which means you've got to get them to say that's what I am, that's who I am. You also want to make sure that you use visual, auditory, and kinesthetic in terms of your presenting. There are visual people out there, auditory people out there, and kinesthetic people out there. If you don't know anything about NLP, I would suggest very strongly that you learn a little bit about that. You know, Tony Robbins, in his book, Unlimited Power, had some stuff about NLP. Don LeMoyne, Unlimited Selling, and some of those persuasion books. Excellent stuff in terms of, you know, how you can use some of those techniques and tools in terms of motivation and influence. So you want to make sure you're picking up some of those tips. Visual people, they say things like, I see things, I imagine things, the life is a movie. Do I need to make sure that I talk that way to them? Do I need to talk in pictures?
Yeah.
I do. And then there's other people who are auditory and you talk in terms of the words, the timbre, the quality, the sound, the pace. And there's other people who are kinesthetics and more feeling oriented, right? You know, I feel the pressure of that decision, right? And you need to connect with them at a deep level because you will. Okay? So you want to make sure you're doing that, right? Social proof, very powerful. And I've had the rare privilege of spending time with 50+ millionaires. Is that a social proof piece? It is, you know. In addition to which, I have my own book coming out, right? M2, Quest for Multimillionaires. You know, authors, do they have a different respect than other people? Quite often they do, so you might want to build that kind of social proof. Any kind of social proof, testimonials, whatever that might be. Okay? We start off by building rapport, by them liking us, but sometime that's got to shift from just not liking to what? Envying that lifestyle. So quite often I talk about the fact I sat in a real estate workshop just like you did. I spent $4,000 my first 4 days, wondered whether it would work or not, 3 kids, family, whatever it is. Then I start, you know, later on talking about the fact that, you know, I love going to the Atlantis Hotel. How many people have been to the Atlantis Hotel? Man, I go there 4 or 5 times a year. That's such a beautiful hotel, you know. You've got the lagoons, you've got the shark tanks and the dolphin. You can go on the dolphin trip and all those kinds of things, right? Is that a lifestyle that they don't have? It is. I have a 911 Porsche, whale tail, right? Do I mention that at some point in the presentation about my Porsche? What do you think?
Sure.
So they start to envy that a little bit, right? Because he's got that lifestyle. Because that says, well, if I want his lifestyle, what do I have to do? Do what he did. Does that make sense to everybody? So you start to get that envy part of the equation. Authority, I am the teacher, that's the way it is. I know what is going on. I can also do something called geographical embeds. Geographical embeds. Here's a geographical embed. I've had some great mentors in my life. Imagine there's a chair here, right? I'm touching the chair. One of my mentors in my life is a guy named Tony Robbins. Everybody know who Tony Robbins is?
Yep.
Everybody know who Tony Robbins is?
Yeah.
Do you know who Tony Robbins is?
Yes.
He's that guy that's the personal power guru, the motivational guy. Remember him? Multi-millionaire? Okay. Tony, you know, changed my life. He got me on the path of success. He got me to start looking at things differently. How many people would like to look at things differently, get on the path? Well, Tony was that kind of guy for me, right? And this is what, I sit in the chair, this is what Tony said to me. Who have I just become? Tony. Okay? Does it have to be somebody you know? Hey, one of the guys that I really respect is a guy named Sir John Templeton. Does everybody know who Sir John Templeton is? Sir John Templeton Funds, billionaire. You know who Sir John Templeton is? Templeton Funds, everybody get that? Billionaire guy? Okay? You know, very successful in terms of business. Well, you know Sir John has a real estate strategy? Did you know this? He's a billionaire in the stock market, but he has a real estate strategy. Would you like to know what that real estate strategy is?
Yeah.
It's literally, sit in the chair. Location, 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 by at the beach. The property that we have for sale is at the beach. Who have I become? Sir John Templeton telling you that is. Geographical embed, very powerful, or my mentor, whoever it might be, but use it and then sit into the place, go into the place, right? So scarcity, there's only a few left. Only the first 5 will get the special bonus. You know, in an audience this size, we only have 5 places, 5 spots. Condition response for them to get the bonus. We want to make sure that that happens. The last is just, I want to talk just briefly about language. Language is the difference between having a very successful sales presentation and not. So you want to start to be good at language. And when I say language, and I'm talking about specifically, is changing our language to meet the 4 personality styles, but also changing our language to adopt some powerful language patterns that work. Powerful language patterns that work are things like agreement frames. How many times have I said, are you with me? Does that make sense? Am I moving in the right direction? How many times have I said that? I've said that at least 100 times in the 90 minutes I've been here. Why am I doing that? To keep you engaged, to keep you saying yes, 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 yes. If I keep doing that,
is that conditioning your response? It is. So you want to start to learn some of those language patterns and start to become a master of some of those language patterns. That probably means you want to take a look at some language patterns for seasoned sales professionals, but you also want to take a look at NLP, and you also probably want to take a look at hypnosis as well, because hypnosis can be pretty good in terms of it. You can use stories to sell. I don't have enough time to really go in how to construct a story, how to use a story to sell. But stories are great ways to deal with belief systems, because what happens is people go into an alpha state. Everybody know what an alpha state is? Yeah, it's more relaxed. It's just a state of brain. It's a brain pattern that hypnosis actually fires off, right? It happens normally. Anybody been driving down the highway and all of a sudden you're going like, where was that exit? You went into alpha state. You started to get into a very relaxed state, and while you were in a very relaxed state, something happened, right? So you can use stories to create those kind of states. And I would suggest you become very good at language patterns, mastering some of the language patterns, taking a look at books about hypnosis. You know, Tad James, www.tadjames.com, very good hypnosis, president of the Hypnosis Society. You might take a look at some of his information. But start taking a look at some of those things, because it's not as weird as you think it might be. It's all about language, and it's simple things that can make a major difference. Like, for example, are there going to be objections against your product? Okay, so for most of you, it's about the price, right? Is that right? Is it most of you about the price? Yeah. Okay, great. So let's just take that objection, that price for a second, and let's put it aside. Okay? Isn't it really about the value? It's not about the price, is it? It's about the value, isn't it? Did everybody get that? Okay, visually, I took the price of the objection, which is in front of us, put it aside, and then started talking about the value. Okay? I can deal with price, but the way I'm going to deal with this is based on value. So become a good master of the language techniques. So you want to make sure you're starting to master some of those things. Well, it's been my privilege and pleasure to be here. Destiny has many paths, and I'm glad that we had a chance to share a few steps together. I'll be around for the balance of the workshop. I certainly enjoyed being with you. Until we meet again, may God hold you softly in the palm of His hand.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jim. Have a couple last bonuses. Thank you. Appreciate it.